And so ends Jin's epic journey from the halls of Candlekeep to the Throne of Blood, and his ultimate freedom from the taint of the Lord of Murder. In total, this Let's Play has produced 154 hours of recorded gameplay footage. The end, when it came, felt almost abrupt and sudden, after literally half a year dedicated pretty much to this one massive game. It also came at the end of a marathon session that took over 3 hours, and so although I made an attempt to provide some sort of summary as the game went to credits, I was far too exhausted to do it any justice, and decided to make one final video to tie up this Let's Play series. I don't know if anyone has or will follow the entire playthrough from beginning to end, but whether you've watched 150 hours or just a few, I thank you very much for giving this amateur effort your time and attention. I am painfully aware now just how bad my early stuff was before I got used to actually providing commentary as I played, and worse, before I bought a microphone and learned how to remove white noise during the processing. In some ways, this is probably a training exercise and learning experience for making Let's Plays that a more professional Let's Player probably could not have bothered uploading. But obviously, I could not play this game blind twice, and in all honesty, at first I was never sure that I would actually persist and complete the series, and was doing it primarily, as I said, to enhance my own experience of this classic game. Having watched Ford's final video for his series, I can now see the hard work he must have put in order to produce the masterpiece that he did. He mentioned over 50 pages of notes and on over 600 NPC characters, which is truly incredible when all I have done is follow the in-game journal and made an Excel spreadsheet of the arcane spells that I wanted Jin, Aerie, and Imoen to learn. I thought I had immersed myself in the fantastic setting of the Sword Coast, but it seems Tord really took it to another level. If I were to compare my Let's Play with his in terms of gameplay, I was fascinated at the vastly different paths Jin and Lily took on their way through the Sword Coast and to the Throne of Blood. Lily's journey took a bit longer. I think Tord said over 170 hours for Shadows of Arm and Throne of Ball, whilst mine was, of course, 154 hours. Though I did obviously do some inventory management and pre-casting of spells off screen, especially when spell sequencers and contingencies became part of the regular arsenal. Jin and the company ended up requiring 22 reloads compared to Tord's 20, 4 of which were due to beholders of some sort or other. By far Jin's most hated and deadly enemy, which Lily dealt with quite painlessly with the Shield of Baldur, which Jin of course never bought. Jin's 8th, 15th, and 16th reloads were stupidly careless at the hands of a Shadow Fiend, Mind Flayers, and Fire Giants, and the 13th death in the Drow fighting pit in Snappa was also totally avoidable. Tord was a bit more relaxed about resting realistically and using what I consider to be slightly cheesy tactics like drawing enemies from a group one by one, or using chain contingencies in the manner that he did. On the other hand, he was a lot harsher to himself in terms of recruiting companions and organizing a balanced party. His insistence on an all-female party, and one that Lily approved of, left it rather squishy for big parts of the game, not to mention Lily's silly embargo on the party's spellcasters from using any spells at the same level as what she could cast herself, not to mention higher, of course, and also her outright refusal to share the boost of speed, which was funny, but not perhaps the most sensible thing to do from a gaming perspective. I was surprised actually at how easily Lily's company dealt with Draconis and Abazagol, but somehow losing Jaheira to Baldur and struggling terribly with the Ravager, both battles which of course Jin's company dealt with pretty easily. I was not surprised to see that we both struggled with Melisande, who was quite the challenge, or that Lily chose to ascend the Throne of Blood and accepted the corrupting power of godhood, whilst Jin refused for the love of a mortal life with Aerie and his other companions and friends. Sadly, both Jin and Lily lost Jaheira, of course, very much a mentor figure and protector. In Jin's case, this was the very final battle against Melisande, a harsh reminder of the steep price and sacrifice Jin and his companions have made on their journeys up to that point. Jin, of course, also lost Imoen in the terrible battle against the mighty Abazagol, which was a brutal blow to the party, given how far Imoen had come, from a troubled young warrior who sought glory and honor for all the wrong reasons, to a heroic knight of the most noble order of the Radiant Heart, from Jin's disliked rival to perhaps his closest friend. Of course, character development was not limited to Imoen. My favorite character in this saga, has to be Aerie, who captured my heart as much as Jin's. At the start of Shadows of Amn, I really didn't know how the journey would turn out, and thus part of the reason that I changed Jin's alignment to neutral was so that I'd have a bit more freedom to roleplay more questionable decisions in ambiguous situations. I never expected to run into an Aerie-like character whose innocence, goodwill, altruism, and courage meant that I could never justify Jin going down some sort of dark path and maintaining his relationship with her. Aerie, from a memorable first encounter, picking up a scared, shy, uncertain young thing, who then demonstrates extraordinary courage and compassion, given everything she's been through, develops into a confident and yet still cute and lovable young woman. I love how she's respectful, polite, almost to a fault, and just generally nice most of the time, but yet will stand up for herself and her principles when push comes to shove. I love how she constantly glows in Throne of Ball, like a flower in full bloom. The change in her character was most apparent during the pregnancy conversation. Whilst Jin was stunned and unsure, she showed no hesitation and no doubt in her joy at the development. She was totally confident that Jin loved her and will love their child, and that they, as a couple, can protect and take care of their child, despite the perilous circumstances of the time. Instantly, in that moment, she turned from the scared young girl that Jin picked up from the circus, constantly seeking reassurance and support, to the one who was supporting him and offering him comfort and encouragement at a time when he was uncertain at how things would turn out. Special mentions must also go to Minsk, Jin's perpetual companion ever since their first encounter in Ashkel. The big Rashomar warrior stood by his side, except for short breaks relaxing in the purple coronet whilst Jin explored the planar sphere and undertook the quests in and around Trademeet. Minsk and his special hamster, Boo, is easily the most entertaining character in the entire saga, with all the best lines. Unfortunately, he does lack some depth, and frankly, Jin's more cultured upbringing in Kanopi probably means that as much as he'd respect the strength and honor of Minsk, I don't think they would ever share the same depth of friendship that I think or I imagine Jin would have eventually developed with Imoen, which is why I said Imoen was probably Jin's best friend. Imoen, unfortunately, was probably the most disappointing character. Now, don't get me wrong, I love her. She's been through so much, and like Aerie, maintains her innocence and altruism. She's also an amazing character in terms of gameplay mechanics, almost perfectly designed to dual class as a thief mage, who can cover the party's minimal thief requirements whilst developing into a very competent spellcaster, well beyond Jin and Aerie's abilities in fact. However, given how central she was to Shadows of Arm, it really was disappointing to see how relatively silent she was in terms of NPC reactions and interactions. I believe this is because Imoen was initially designed amazingly to die in Spellhold, as if the early stages of the Shadows of Arm weren't dark enough already. She was only saved by her popularity amongst BioWare fans at the time, and thus a last-minute decision was made to save her instead, which gave the company no time to properly flesh out her character, like they did with Imoen and Aerie. Since I've mentioned all of Jin's core group except Jaheira, I guess I should mention her for completeness. I can't say that I particularly liked her in Baldur's Gate 1, because I found her quite difficult to use, and her personality was quite grating, to be honest. However, like Minsk, she really grew on me during Baldur's Gate 2, and she's now what I think of when somebody says strong female character. Sadly, it looks like I missed all of Jaheira's quest contents, because I never did Zar's quest, ironically precisely because Jaheira was in my group. And I also never rested in a particular inn, the name of which I can't remember, but apparently that is the trigger for another of Jaheira's quests. Of course, Jaheira's romance quest was never an option, because Jin of course chose Aerie, and losing Jaheira in the final battle was pretty sad, and incredibly I couldn't even find a non-romance Jaheira epilogue on YouTube, so I'm still not really sure what I missed. Now, this is becoming quite a long monologue, so I shall end my musing and reflections. Once again, my thanks for those who have supported me in my first efforts at making a Let's Play series, and I hope you've enjoyed however much of it that you watched. If you're wondering if that's it in terms of the tales of Sima Jin and this YouTube channel, then I do have some plans in the pipeline. Firstly, I intend to play Baldur's Gate Enhanced Edition, the Black Pits 1 and 2, which will be another blind Let's Play series, which I expect to be a lot shorter. And after that, I've got vague ambitions of doing the whole saga again with the Enhanced Edition games, but I suspect that will be quite a bit in the future, and if I can pull it off, it will be quite a departure from the current style of my Let's Plays, if I can pull it off, that is. I might also make some videos about what I've learned about the game in terms of tactics and lore, and I might also make a beginner's guide to dealing with the most basic and common issues that trouble brand new players like myself back when I first started in Candlekeep last June. But that's all to come, and I would appreciate your continued support. Regardless, however, it is time to say goodbye for this chapter of the Tales of Sima Jin. Thank you, and may Helm watch over thee.